welcome back to Science Made Simple. Today's experiment is part 2 of our set of experiments that involves water, food coloring, and flowers. If you haven't checked out part 1, definitely go do that. But for today's experiment, here's what you'll need. You'll need a clear container like a vase or glass or cup. You'll need scissors or a knife. You'll also need water-based food coloring with the color that you want to turn your flower petals into. You're going to need some water, and you'll need a carnation flower with white petals. In part 1, we successfully changed the color of our flower petals. We changed the color of one white carnation flower to red, and another white carnation flower, we changed its petals to blue. But I wondered, what would happen if I cut the stem in half and placed one half of the stem in water that had red food color in it, and the other half of the stem in water that had blue food color in it? Would the flower turn purple? Would half the flower be red and the other half be blue? Would it be red and blue but evenly distributed throughout? What's your hypothesis? What do you think? Well, let's give it a try. As for safety, this experiment is safe, so no need for goggles or a lab coat. However, because we'll be cutting the stem of the flower in half, we will be using a sharp utensil, so there is a slight sharp utensil hazard to be aware of. Make sure if you are a youngster that you're doing this with a grown-up. Also, just like in part 1, because we're using food coloring, you might want to wear some gloves because your hands might get dyed the color of your food coloring. First, you'll need to prepare your water with the food coloring just like in part 1. But this time, you'll need 2 containers, and the 2 containers need to have different colors in them. I'm using red dye and blue dye in my 2 containers. Then you'll need to cut the bottom of the stem of the flower perpendicular to the length of the stem. Now here's the tricky part. You'll need to cut from the bottom of the stem about 2 inches upward along the length of the stem to cut it in half. This is tricky to do and must be done carefully. Please have a grown-up do it for you. Now, place one end of your flower stem in one container and the other end in another container. Again, this is a little tricky to do, so for stability purposes, I'm taping my flower to the wall in a vertical position. Okay, let's monitor the flowers for the next several hours. After only a few hours, you'll notice that there are some petals that are red and others that are blue. As you might expect, based on how we cut the stem, the petal colors are divided on halves of the flower. It's not just the petals that have changed color. You can see that the stem and the leaves have also changed to either red or blue. And check this out. There is one petal that appears purple in color. Perhaps I cut one xylem in half and placed the halves in the different color dyes. So there is a unique purple petal on this flower.